수레요. 불나는 마이트가들을 불러주세요. 모든 범죄는 나에게 맡겨라. 케이카스 출동.
Hello, robot figure fans and passerby. This is KRBrickBot, and this is a double review of 헬로카봇 Mighty Guard and K-Cops. Mighty Guard was originally released in late 2015, and K-Cops was released in early 2016, and they both retail for about 120,000 Korean won. And both of them have the latest re-release dates of August of 2019. As you might know, these are copolymers, that is, they don't have individual robot modes. And their names are very simple. Help, Ready, Cure, and Guard. Help has fallen and he can't get up. This rescue helicopter certainly looks like one. Main colors of white and red. The nose cone and the sides have this Korean fire department logo with a red outlined Carbot logo on top of here. And on the sides there are these water cannons which can point down that far and point back that far. Some non-spinning silver painted turbines on the back, and a big thick fin and tail fins. And 3 non-rolling wheels, the front one retractable. And some obvious combining ports. The paint quality control for the most part is pretty good, except there's a little black stray line on mine here, and I think the black paint on the thrusters is not always the best, but it still looks pretty clean. And the propeller spins pretty nicely in this polyamide plastic port. But the propeller, it is the most unusually shaped one, and I don't think it's going to be very aerodynamic with these 4 different shapes of blades. Because this is obviously a sword that's split in the middle like an axe. It's a pretty neat storage solution, but it still looks pretty awkward and not to mention a bit tall as a propeller. But still, it gets the job done. Ready Player 2. This fire command car, Ready, is a pretty nice, not actually licensed or anything, but still a pretty realistic looking car. Some silver painted headlights, a little bar there, red Carbot symbol there, fire department logo there, some nice striping on the top, a transparent bull bar with a silver middle there. All the standard things of a car, and an orange painted backlight. Though oddly, it looks like these back windows should be painted, but they're just left plain. And there's quite a noticeable gap here because that has to splay out a little to detach the thing. It's honestly not that exciting. It's just a car arm. But still, it's a decent fire car. A cure is on the way. This is also a somewhat realistic but not actually licensed Korean ambulance. The fire department logo there, and these green and white little squares, and the plus that you can see on Korean ambulances. Green transparent headlights with some back paint green lights. The back is looking pretty plain, no extra rear view mirrors or anything. And a very low riding bumper. And compared to Ready, the split hinge for this is much more noticeable. And Cure here is a out-of-scale outlier. So if you compare him with Ready here, kinda looks like Cure is an awfully small ambulance. Especially with those tiny little wheels. It looks like Cure would actually more fit in the Transformers Deluxe scale. And here's Leap to compare, which is actually a deluxe. Two different scales, but that's to be expected for most combiner teams. And finally, Guard, a yellow fire truck. That's also appeared in red as several generics in the cartoon. This is technically not a real truck, but it still looks very realistic. Especially with all the little details they put in this thing. The truck front, though looking quite wide than the typical truck, it still captures that essence. A little grill that kind of looks tinier than an actual truck in my opinion. The Carbot logo there, a nice bull bar there, little silver lights, windshield wipers, rear view mirrors, red lights, blue lights, little sirens, step ladders, foot ladders, a little fake silver hatch here, a little door here, and red stripes that lead down to what look like little outriggers, but this thing doesn't have any actual outriggers, so they're useless outriggers. But that's still a nice touch. Korean, the police department logo there. Some two vent blocks, what I assume are engine blocks, what are actually called fire capsules because robot mode. The ladder is also looking pretty blocky, but still functional, with non-functional hydraulics molded in there. And the ladder that extends and clicks at two places. And some little buttons. And from the back view, you can obviously tell this is a robot torso with some legs. All four of these components are pretty generic rescue vehicles, but they still get the job done and look fairly realistic. To transform this thing into Mighty Guard, first, lift up the legs on those nice springy ratchets that resonate in these obviously hollow truck bits. I'm sure these are quite hollow. Flip down those leg panels, which intentionally do not click in at 90 degrees. Fold that up. Flip forward this cannon, and if you just leave it like that, it looks like a... What is it? This is a walking Gerwalk fire tower with a lockdown head. Anyway, you can also take these fire capsules and then plug them on the legs at two little clicks here. And then you can just slide this off to reveal the head. And if you turn around and switch on the switch here, and detach helps little engine booster, then split that and fold in the chopper bits. Then plug that into these holes, and then if you plug these little tabs into the polymer high clips, and these little buttons will also press these little buttons. Though that kind of muffles the speaker that was there. Then flip this up and plug this in. Then parts form cure by detaching these little flaps, flipping out this little port, pushing down the windscreen to reveal the fist. Plug this in on top. And then flip out this for the little medical gun. Then plug it in here. Ready is just about the same. Detach these. Flip this forward. Fist reveal. Plug in here. Flip over. Reveal a claw. Fold those in and then click them in. And you can adjust these cannons as you like. Mighty Guard is a pretty nice balanced, has a nice balanced design. That is, it's pretty symmetrical throughout and apart from the arms, of course. And it certainly looks like a big rescue robot. I'm pretty sure this is the very first Carbot with a traditional nose and mouth robot face instead of the smorgasbord of emotionless faceplates. Though this face still doesn't show any emotion, as this mouth does not move in the show. It's all flashing, blinking lights for speaking. Anyway, there are some nice gold details here, especially on these Wonder Woman-like wing crests and a little green forehead gem. Although the back of the head doesn't have those little crests painted all the way. But still, it's a nice motif similar to this here. Oh yeah, and you can flip out the handle of this ladder gun with an 8mm handle and plug it into either hand. With some effort, you can hold it pretty decently, but without any splitting out arm movement nor any biceps, holding this thing is kind of limited. And all of this extra hollow space that is the housing for the head with nowhere else to go kind of really gets in the way of some decent poses. And speaking of the other accessory, you can detach this sword if you don't attach this engine booster off. Then take out the middle, fold that up, and then just make sure to plug that in all the way, and then plug it in the hand for a nice a BLS, big long sword, or a BFS, whatever you like to call this thing. And this guy is still pretty armed with these fire containment capsules that are non-firing. This very long and big crush claw. And this life gun, as I am aware. Plant rejuvenator functions and such. And these cannons really have no way to point forward anyway, but that's just a nitpick. And if you think these extra tools are too kibbly, you can always fold them back up. But that still kind of looks like cars on the arms, so you can really just detach these for the cleanest non-armed look. Articulation. The head is on a swivel. The arms have full 360 ratchets. And the elbows that go both ways at 90 degrees. Unfortunately, no other joints apart from that. No outward splits, no biceps, so the arm movement is very limited. The legs aren't forward that much, back that much, the splits that much, full 360 thighs, knees, and foot joint. And if you heard and seen me try to pose this thing, the ratchets are not the tightest. So when I try fidgeting with this thing, it just keeps flopping all over the place. Anyway, those wide surface areas do let them do some nice poses. Nice crouching poses. And this Carbot button on this super long crotch has 11 lights and sounds. Well, actually only sounds. Now, on to K-Cops, which I have the box for. And I put it on the back view because the front is looking a little messy because of how the way it's shipped. For starters, the background is blue techno with red and some fire and cities in the background, highlighting the 4 components with different colored backgrounds. See here under the model here, the highlights of the sounds and voice clips this thing has. The unique word mark. The protagonist as always, and among the other standard blurbs are the commercial blurb, 3D animation blurb, easy transformation blurb, logo blurb, and the contents. And the Sonokong logo, which was on the older versions, has been replaced with a ChoiRock logo. Apart from the standard AH and TV commercial blurb, there's also this trademark registered number for K-Cops. Maybe it's because of the other K-Cops. First off, Turbo, a boisterous APC, an armored personal carrier. And it certainly looks like one in gray with some nice details here, like the back doors, the red lights, some police sirens there, and some nice little door there, and a Korean police symbol there, and a Carbot symbol there, some more sirens, and some stylized bull bar and such. It certainly fits the part of an APC, but other than an arm, it doesn't have much function, other than rolling around like a typical toy car. Next is Speed. Not that Speed, or that Speed, or that Speed, or a whole bunch of other fictional characters named Speed. It's a fictional car decked out in a traditional Korean police car deco. Red and yellow stripes. There's the symbol there, the nice sirens there. Kind of a small back here. A nice little red painted there, that's a nice touch. The front has a pretty plain white grille with a symbol there, and red and blue sirens there. And a little bull bar, but honestly, this thing has only the siren paint, but for all the other car details, it doesn't really have that much paint, except for the grille and silver headlights. And Skid here is looking awfully similar to Speed, but not exactly the same. Yeah, they look incredibly similar. It kind of looks like 2 different car models of the same model, if you know what I'm saying. Interesting observation I just came up with. Next we have Thunder, another helicopter, but has enough details to set itself apart from Help. Apart from the obvious being a police helicopter, some other differences. This transformation hinge that's nicely decorated. The front is also looking a little different. Probably similar to some helicopter model with a unpainted symbol there. And what looks like a front searchlight or a lightning shooter. Some black painted nacelles here, I guess, or intakes. An unpainted little propeller there and some different shape of fins here. And it looks like the propeller is slightly leaning forward, unlike the perfectly perpendicular ones of Help's. But there are these very obvious push buttons, unlike the Help, which were on the bottom. And also VHS, Visible Head Syndrome. And non-retractable and non-rolling wheels. And just like Help, this propeller is obviously an axe in the shape of a sword. I mean, a sword in the shape of an axe. You might think these swords are almost the same, but if you take a look, they have some slight differences here and there. Also, Mighty Guards is looking pretty yellower a bit. And the shaft handle is also different. This one has little holes, and this one is perfectly smooth for some reason. And finally, Cops, this very big police bus. For transporting prisoners, I assume. It's also decked in a Korean deco. With some nice window details and such, and a very big, wide window with some molded windshield wipers, a tiny little grill, pretty plain. Sirens. And some very obvious polymer clips. It's a somewhat realistic looking police bus, but it's not that remarkable other than being a big blocky bus and most of the torso for K-Cops. And if by the off chance you were wondering, yes, all these 4 component cars can fit into MP10's trailer. Now to transform and combine, pull back these flaps. Then you can also fold back these flaps. Bonus base mode. Then flip down the seat and detach this rescue stick. And you're pretty much done for the torso. Unlike Mighty Guard, this one does not come with the head. Unlike Help, Thunder's transformation is very asymmetrical. Split it like this, then fold up the top here, the top, and fold this back. And this is actually the back, while this, you flip over it and pull out the head. Turn on the switch if you want those combining sounds, just like Mighty Guard. Take Turbo, split him apart for a bonus hover car mode. Okay, that looks pretty terrible. Flip out this, pushing that for the fist. Plug in the rescue stick if you want. Plug it in there. Take speed. Detach that. Click, click, click. Flip that forward for a little gun. And plug that in. And you can take the sword and plug it in the hand or plug it in the shoulder. This certainly looks like a big Carbot, and I believe the head, torso, and name in general is a homage to the fondly remembered brave police J. Decker. Known in Korea as Robot Investigation Unit K-Cops. And the K-Cops has a pretty unified color scheme throughout. Well, apart from the titanium turbo arm, which is a shield. A nice, big, car-kibbledy storm shield. And the other arm has a pepper gas spray gun, or whatever you would like to think this to come out of these nozzles. And the asymmetrical design does help it set it apart from Mighty Guard, and it has these unusually little separated gold shoulders with some screw holes that's hard to ignore. And it has a very Brave-esque chest crest. A nice golden eagle with a big red pentagram gem in the middle. And that head sculpt is also looking pretty Brave-esque with that traditional nose and face. With a nice little brim cap. A nice golden trimmed brim cap with a Korean symbol there and some little red cheeks. Not exactly like Deckard, but seems pretty similar. If there are some aesthetic nitpicks I have to nitpick about. For one, there's a kind of a noticeable gap between the bus window and the helicopter top. Those really don't flush together that well. And just like Mighty Guard, it has these roof flaps that really cover the underside of the fist, so you can only see it from directly forward or from the top. And these very kibbly arm attachments. But other than that, it still looks pretty streamlined. And I guess you can mix and match Mighty Guard's and K-Cops' arms and arm bits. And taking a closer inspection, I noticed that the gold on Mighty Guard and the gold on this re-release of K-Cops are quite different. This newer K-Cops has a much brighter, shinier, lighter shade of gold than this somewhat muted, more yellowish gold. If you take a look at this old K-Cops and this newer K-Cops, you can quite see that different shade of color of gold. Darker, lighter. Articulation is almost exactly the same as Mighty Guard. Shoulders with softer ratchets. Arms that go forward and backward both ways with no biceps levels and no outwards. Forward that much, back that much. Knees, thighs. A little click joint here on the foot. And the head. Well, at least his leg ratchets seem more stable than Mighty Guard's. And if you turn off the switch, you can also activate this button, and thankfully not the crotch symbol, for 11 sounds.
모든 범죄는 나에게 맡겨라. K-Cups 출동! 헬로카봇! 앉아! 저는 여러분의 안전을 지키는 K-Cups입니다. 여러분은 제가 보호하겠습니다. 꼼짝 마! 움직이면 가스건을 쏘겠다. 잘했어, K-Cups. 오늘도 굿! 차탄, 나쁜 짓을 하면 안 됩니다. 어서 내 뒤로 피해. 스트롱 실드 작동! 레스트 스틱으로 혼을 내주겠어. 지구, 함께 지각할까?
Size comparisons. Masterpiece Optimus Prime, which would scale pretty well with these combiners. Combiner Wars Copytron. These are quite bigger than the standard Combiner Wars combiner. And Omega Supreme. I know Mighty Guard and or K-Cops will not be for everyone because they only have two modes, robot mode and vehicle modes, no intermediate robot modes. If you disregard that, these two are still pretty great combiners that are nicely scaled with the Transformers Masterpiece, and also pretty nice and chunky and playable for its intended target audience. Still, this would still likely be a low-key purchase since both of these get re-released regularly, so other people outside of Korea may just want to opt for the ones that actually transformed from robot to vehicle first. And it's your preference as an adult or a parent or a collector whether you want these for yourself or for your little youngins.
Thanks for watching. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to tune in for more Korean robot content for fans. And until next time, this is KRBrickBot signing off.